I didn't think I was ever going to do it, but I actually reinstalled New World the other day. This came about after I started teasing the game a bit in a recent video, which made me wonder how the game was doing and actually check it out and see the direction the game is headed. This video is not about the new upcoming content, although it will be discussed a bit, but about the game's sudden increase in activity and if it will sustain a healthy population or die away as so many others do. As always, discussion is encouraged in the comments below. I try to respond to everyone and do my best to see other points of view. So like I said, after a recent video where I was talking a bit of crap, I decided to do a quick Google and I realized the game was getting a whole lot added. A whole new area, towns were being revamped, the Great Sword was coming, a bit late if you ask me, and a change to the new player experience was on the way as well. They keep using the word expansion, but I'm not sure I am quite on board with that yet. However, it certainly is being overhauled in a few ways that are long overdue. These changes, along with some content creator attention, has led to a major spike in the game's population, pretty much doubling it in the span of a couple of weeks. And once again, much to the frustration of literally every player, queues are a thing, and the damn wait number isn't even accurate at all. Not sure why they didn't anticipate a content drop to cause a big spike in player count, but here we are. Now, I did enjoy the game when it was released last year. I know it became kind of a meme, or maybe it always was, but I certainly got my money's worth from my time in the game. Game world itself was beautiful and vibrant, the sound was very impactful, and I greatly enjoyed the PvP. I know that the last one people debate on back and forth, but I did genuinely have a good time with it. A particularly fond memory I have from early on was me and 5 friends fighting in the forest against 15 or so people. It was an incredible moment of teamwork and momentum shifts in the battle, losing and gaining ground as we took advantage of weaknesses we saw and then tucking our tails and retreating from certain defeat. It was a blast. But just like with any game, this one was not without its issues. First and foremost, many of the game's assets had been reused. Now, I realize this is not a new thing. Tons of games do this. In fact, when the game did that 180 from the hardcore PvP style it was originally intended on being into what it is now within that year and change time frame, it should have been obvious the copy and paste assets were going to be leaned into. They had to add an insane amount of PvE content from nothing, and that really was only going to be the way to do it given that window. And because I expected it, it was somewhat easy to accept and enjoy the game for the things that I felt like it did well. But I have to admit, after a while, it was, and I really hate this phrase, immersion breaking. After a time, it became too hard to look past the bridges, cities, and towns and various ruins that were controlled V'd all over the map. I said this at the time, and I know a few other people did too, but it should have been delayed to flesh it out a bit more and just become the best version of itself that it could be at launch. Obviously, any MMORPG is in a stage of perpetual development, so there's an argument against that there. But I think the game could have benefited a ton by having another 6 months to a year development time. They really did a lot in that first year of development for the PvE content itself, and just, it could have used another one. But the past is the past, and here we are now, a year later, and a new update is coming soon. One of those overdue changes is a big switch up to the cities of Monarch's Bluff and Everfall. Both towns are being completely switched up in their look, which is a really nice step for the game, I think. Monarch's Bluff has taken on this massive castle aesthetic, while Everfall has gone the route of brick and mortar. Both are distinct improvements for the game, and I am 100% positive they are not stopping there. Up until now, it was pretty much only Reekwater that felt any different to me, even though it has a lot of the same wood textures there. It seems much more in the right place to me in that swampy region. Another thing I actually hated was the endgame gear grind of raising your gear score, now called expertise. These days, they have increased the ease of this process by increasing the frequency of drops, along with having a type of item that guarantees a score increase of a slot of your choosing. These types of systems allow for guaranteed progression for even the most time-strapped individuals. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of dailies, but when it comes down to it, you have to do something, and I would much prefer dailies than running in a train around the map opening up elite chests. Talk about immersion breaking. So we've had the population nearly double in a span of 2 or 3 weeks. Many of these players are seeing a lot of the changes for the first time, even without all the new stuff that's coming at the end of September. There are still quite a few changes that have been for the better. I myself was gone for almost 10 months, so seeing instruments, the system of over-leveling for your gathering and crafting abilities, mutated dungeons, and again, the guaranteed gear increases with gypsum, it was all new to me, and I'm not championing the game as being fixed by any stretch, but it is definitely improved. One of the biggest things they need to switch up is some of the movements and abilities of mobs. You fight many of the same types of mobs through your 60 levels, but they pretty much always just kind of do the same thing, have the same ability pattern. Having a bit of variety here will just go a really long way in adding some flavor to the game. I do think we are getting a bit more mob variety in the new update, but whether that actually changes things like already in place remains to be seen. That honestly just might be one of the biggest things for me. I don't know. You guys tell me, what's the biggest thing this game needs to change to see an improvement? Obviously, it needs quite a few things, but if you had to choose one thing to change right now, what would it be? I'm really interested to read what you guys have to say about it. But let's talk about a positive that I think is being added to. Something I don't think this game actually gets enough credit for, though, is the completely random and silly interactions that happen. From the human centipedes going on in town, flash mobs, or just hilarious random proximity chat moments. It can be a pretty fantastic time in terms of social interaction, to be sure. With the recently added musical system, I believe these types of interactions will increase. Obviously a bit less random because, you know, there's a purpose that you're doing with the musical performance, but it's going to increase nonetheless. This system adds buffs that a musician can give to people within a certain radius of the performer, provided they leave the tip, of course. But, you know, it provides a nice, easy way to make a little bit of money and provide some entertainment to people in the vicinity. Now, it's not a game that's going to win any awards, but I do think some of the hate New World gets is a bit much. We would do well to remember quite a few games have taken years to get right. Specifically, Final Fantasy XIV and Elder Scrolls Online had notoriously rough launches, with the former even being taken off the shelves to be revamped. That title is now the most populated game in terms of MMORPGs these days. Maybe this game is finally on the right track, or maybe not, but it seems like it's got a much better outlook these days for New World.